topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, good afternoon. Great to have you with us. I'm Bill Martinez, and we're going to talk U.S. national security. You know, America touts the best military on land, air, and sea. However, we've not won a war in 50 years. Think about that. At a time when threats are emerging from China, Russia, Iran, ISIS, the Department of Defense and our generals appear to be more focused on diversity than military preparedness. I don't know about you, but that was quite shocking when I believe it was Defense Secretary Austin had made reference, and Milley as well, that we had the most diverse military. Well, I've never heard of a diverse military winning a war. Have you? Well, and our president also has just revealed to the world that America is running low on ammunition. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, there's nothing top secret anymore, I guess. Well, is this the leadership that is needed as we appear to be getting closer to a possible world war? Well, the senior executive, Adam Roosevelt, is a government relations expert, ex-U.S. Army and former advisor to U.S. government and UAE royal family, and he presents a risk analysis. Adam, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Oh, Bill, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, Adam, let me tell you, being former Marine, it's hard for me to say X anything. You know, my brother was in the Army. You know, thank you for your service, your dedication, your commitment to liberty. And it's just hard for me to say X. Maybe just because of my, you know, Marine Corps background. So forgive me if I refer to you as former Army as opposed to X, okay?
No problem, Bill. I'm okay with it.
Okay, excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, Bill. For the viewers and for the folks listening in, I started my career as a young 17-year-old U.S. military entering the service. I deployed to Afghanistan 2 tours. I served in Operation Enduring Freedom and also in Operation Freedom Sentinel, which focuses on train, advise, assist. And the first campaign was counterinsurgency. My background was primarily working in the cybersecurity field, and then I got into the mission advisory, working with some of the task force to go after our primary enemy, which was Al-Qaeda. I then went over to Homeland Security, continuing my work, and worked with the DHS Intelligence and Analysis, and was happy to be involved in national security programs, mostly regarding Homeland Security. And then I ran for office in 2016 in Arlington, which, as you know, the Pentagon area, and
Right.
was advising defense contractors.
Mm-hmm. Well, Adam, let's go back a minute. 17 years old. What motivates you to enter the military at 17?
Well, I had a sense of duty and patriotism, and I think sometimes it sounds cliche, but at 17, when you sign up, there's only really one reason. And my reason was to serve the community, and my reason was to change the policies or put myself on the front lines so that the policies, I could see them effectively being engaged with my body, mind, skill set in the field. So I'm very committed to patriotism, love the country, would die for the country any day.
Well, I get that, but kids your age, and I'm not saying today, I mean, this was, several years ago to say the least, but even at that point, I mean, you're quite the rebel. You're counter the culture, even at that time when you entered the military.
Well, I can tell you that, I guess now 10 years ago, some time, this was a very different climate. Today's climate is not the same. Millennials are very different in their focus in terms of patriotism. But during my time, as even a millennial today, it was still very patriotic. We still had the Pledge of Allegiance during that time. No longer do we have that, but we had a strong sense of patriotism even during those years ago.
Well, let's fast forward to today. We've got military having a hard time meeting their quotas. The young kids, They seem to want little to do with the military. And I think that that's unfortunate on many levels. And I want you to address that, and then I'll give you my 2 cents, if that's okay.
I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on it, Bill. I'll tell you, I just recently spoke on Sky News Arabia on this very topic, and they brought on a one-star general to complement the conversation. And we unpackaged it, and we saw a narrative of culture that had been impacted due to these new policies of today. We had LGBTQ impacting the military. That impacted our readiness. It also impacted the ability for certain members to deploy if they were LGBTQ doing these challenges. That's one aspect. But really also the youth today is not interested in serving in the U.S. military. There has been a large call against military service. We even saw this with Harvard when students were effectively protesting military fundamentals in the advisory and curriculum, which we were taken aback by that. There seems to be a culture against U.S. military service, and that's happening now with today's liberal policies entering into school, where we really need to recruit and retain to influence the future of national security in the best interest of the United States.
With my marketing background being what it is, and I got to tell you, I look at the universe and say, okay, of the potential universe of the kids that could come into the military today, how many of them are, revved up about diversity?
Well, I don't think many. Well, at least on my side of the aisle, I come from the conservative viewpoint, but I do think that diversity and inclusion can be a good topic as long as it's not overly politicized. There is no room for confusion in the U.S. military. And I think once you politicize the U.S. military, it becomes an organization that is not fit to fight and serve out our purpose, which is to defend the American people, no matter what color you are, what religion you are. And politics has entered and infected the system, and now it's become a primary talking point versus focusing on what the real issue is, and that is defending the American people.
Well, I served our country during Vietnam. I wasn't in country. I served at Camp Pendleton, California, in the Joint Public Affairs Office. And I can tell you, to your point, politics is what messed up the whole execution, in my humble opinion, of how the war was conducted there in Vietnam. We say it was a conflict. Call it what you want. A lot of people died. And I believe, the political perspective invaded the execution of the military plan to such a degree, it compromised our ability. I mean, here we are. We're the number one fighting force. No other time. I mean, you just can't even fathom that the United States would get their butts kicked by the North Vietnamese.
Yeah, and you were there during a phase of war where things were a little more aggressive. I think you got Vietnam, and we saw the fighting that happened there. We've got Iraq and Afghanistan. And you're absolutely right. These phases of war were cultures of mentalities, at least in the homeland, that either supported the war campaigns and the troops coming back home or did not. I think there were a lot of not support for the Vietnam service members that went out there.
Well, that's because, see, the media told the American people how they should feel about, the soldiers coming back from Vietnam, sadly. And this is what's happened. This was, a purposeful move by the mainstream media to not necessarily report, but to opinionate. And as a result, it really put, those veterans coming back, from Vietnam on a bit of a hot seat and on a plane of, I say a plane, just a level of lack of appreciation of what they did. I mean, they went and they responded to the call by our U.S. government. We can argue all day long the rights and wrong of Vietnam, but, these men are guilty of answering the call of their government. And the way they were treated was unfortunate, but I believe it sent a temperament and sent the wrong message that we still deal with today in terms of honoring the military and appreciating what it's all about. I told you I'd give you my 2 cents. I'm kind of like beyond 25 cents, so forgive me. But the deal is that I've always believed that every citizen of this country should have skin in the game. And just like Israel, everyone should participate in some level of service or the military. I was blessed to be in the military. Of course, before even going to the military, I was blessed to be raised by nuns. And I think that's what prepared me for the Marine Corps. When so many people got washed out, I'll tell you, whether you're in the Marine Corps or in the Navy SEALs, if you have a runway of education by Catholic nuns, you can handle anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the point being is that when you, and as you know, even at 17, the maturity and the development of your character was so solidified because of your experience in the military. You learned so much so rapidly. And I just think that it's unfortunate that only 1% of America today serves in the military. And I feel for the 99% because they miss out. They're missing out on so many things, life lessons and experiences that only the military can give them, right?
I completely concur with your assessment. And I also, too, agree that the U.S. could benefit from policies that enforce recruitment that start at mandatory policies. And I mean that because the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, who I'm sitting next to in Dubai, are very efficient, and they have defense first mentality, and then they go into the commercial space, but they're always ready to fight and defend their national interests.
Well, we're talking to Senior Executive Adam Roosevelt, government relations expert, former U.S. Army, I'm going to say, and former advisor to U.S. government and UAE royal family. Adam, so here we are today with the threats quite emerging. America appears to be very weak. The leadership of our country seems to be compromised, and our enemies are taking full advantage, whether it's the communist Chinese or the Russians, and even Iran is beating their chest and clanging their swords as well.
It's a tough situation for the United States, especially now as our reputation has been degraded with decisions made under this current administration. And we've seen from this time frame the withdrawal in Afghanistan, which created what we'll say a narrative that the American government is not capable of being the peace and security leader. So that's now in question in China and Iran, all these different things that are happening, even with Taiwan, even in Ukraine. It has reshaped the international order, but the U.S. was supposed to be the number one country leading that international order, and now we're being questioned in so many different ways, domestically and internationally.
Adam, address the damage of Afghanistan. What that did to, you touched a little bit on it, what it did to the reputation, how our allies now see us, and how our enemies, even worse, how they see America.
Well, I can tell you from being on the ground in Afghanistan that the military veteran community has been impacted because they are also still a part of that historical engagement. Then we have our partners who were there, the Afghanis, the Afghan National Guard, the civilians who put their lives on the line to work alongside us to win this war. And then President Biden made that decision, and he had the ability to be strategic and execute with efficiency, but they moved so quickly without drawing down properly. And I think that has impacted so many different things. There were horrific crimes being carried out on American citizens, not just our allies, but Americans who were left behind. We watched the videos, Bill. We saw the children being thrown over the walls. We saw the bomb explode that took several of our members. And we have to say to those families that we are upset and we still need justice for these inactions from the president. And it's very disappointing that we've lost faith and confidence as a nation of peace and security. And we've lost faith and confidence as an international ally in our international space. And that's damaging, not just in that phase, that's also damaging in the future as we enter new conflicts around the world.
Were you satisfied with the final conclusions of the investigation into the exit of Afghanistan, and particularly the death of those 13 soldiers?
I'll tell you, I've had one interview on TV, and it was the only interview that I could not seem to find my words. And it's because I was tied to that issue so closely. I'm not just unsatisfied. I really would like to see justice and accountability in some way, shape, or fashion, that the executive branch, the secretary himself as well, and the DOD is held accountable. These men and women who have given their lives, they trust their commanders, their president in chief, to protect them, and they were failed. And we know that these generals who've been going to the War College, this is the best trained military in the world, and we could not figure out an exit strategy. And we've been trying to solve so many other nations' issues, and we could not save our own men and women, and those men and women were left behind. And that is an unfortunate truth.
Well, excuse me for making the linkage and connection here, but I'm still grieving for Benghazi. What happened there. I mean, there's just something that's underlying our military preparedness and our ability. Here we are, the number one fighting force with all this technology and everything that's available to us. How do we allow 4 of our citizens, including a U.S. ambassador, to be murdered in Libya?
This was probably the very first event in my career where I woke up to politics, because I was trained not to think about political things in the military uniform. I was in Italy actually at the time, and we were looking at being what they call a QRF, a quick reaction force, because there's certain locations that they will deploy units to for quick reaction. They told folks to stand down. They didn't have the ability. But this was under Secretary Clinton. The Secretary of State at the time had the information. They did not act on it. They didn't enhance the security parameters. They should have known better, and they did know better, and they failed America, and they failed our lead ambassador who was in that country. And we saw what happened in those tapes. We saw what happened in the body recovery and the autopsy. It was unbelievable, sodomized. It's something you can never actually want to address as an American soldier or any American, having seen what happened to our ambassador that way.
Yeah. And all that was buried and covered up by some stupid video, blamed on a video, which, of course, the people there in Libya were kind of laughing about it and go, okay, yeah, buy some airtime and, spend $100,000, playing some sort of apology, which was total nonsense. And again, what did it do for our reputation, and how did it present America? And I guess this is what I'm hearing at on our radio show and also on this TV show is our audience and listeners will say, Bill, what is happening here? I mean, here we are. We give so much money to these nations to help them. Whenever there's an emergency, America is the first to run there and to serve and to help these countries who are in trouble. But yet when we hear from them, they say they hate America and they have no respect for America. And they go, okay, what's going on here? Is America being misrepresented by these political forces? And my tendency is to go along. I mean, to agree with them, because there's a disconnect here. For all the good that the everyday America is doing with their taxes and their tax money, in foreign aid, and to be disrespected like this, there's some miscommunication. There's something that's not connecting right. And I believe it goes back to what you touched on earlier, and that is that we have countervailing forces and agenda that is not consistent with our constitutional beliefs.
You summed it up exactly correct, and I concur 100%. And I think politics provides red tape. We know when President Trump, and we'll try to keep it neutral, but we know when President Trump was the president, what he did was he allowed the combatant commanders to have the autonomy to make decisions. Under different administrations, liberal leaning, we have seen that there has been micromanagement. And that makes the force ineffective. That's why we were unable to respond. We know in Libya, we had CIA assets that could respond. Again, micromanagement across the entire division in the military and our sister agencies in the intelligence community. And that is why we are continuing to fail, because we need to trust in the investment. And we've invested in those combatant commanders. We've invested in our CIA operations, and we need to allow them to make decisions that will move quickly to accomplish America's main objective, and that is to win.
We got to go to break. On the other side, we'll talk more about that as we unpack that specific part of the topic. He's a senior executive, Adam Roosevelt, governor relations expert, and we've got more from Adam right after this. Stay with us.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-823-9853. 800-823-9853. 800-823-9853. That's 800-823-9853.
The FDA issued an import alert for U.S. Customs authorities to detain illegal, disposable, flavored nicotine e-cigarettes from foreign countries, including China. Rich Marianos is a former assistant director for the ATF, now with Georgetown University.
These disposable e-cigarettes have become a real problem. It's encouraging to see the FDA act at the border, but our kids need them to take the next steps and remove these foreign disposables from the store shelves. They have the authority, and now it's time to act.
Sponsored by the Border Security Alliance.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
Would you like to hear better for as little as 10 cents a day? Now you can with the all-new Audien hearing aids. The average hearing aid lasts about 3 years. Ours, at only $99 a pair, means you're paying as little as 10 cents a day to hear better. And to make things even better, we'll give you a 45-day money-back guarantee. Skip the doctor and get hearing aids delivered straight to your door. We've eliminated all the middlemen to offer you a factory direct price of only $99 a pair. Join over 300,000 people just like you who took advantage of our 45-day trial offer. Now you can hear better too for just 10 cents a day. Call now and order your $99 pair of Audien hearing aids with a 45-day money-back guarantee. Plus, get free 3 to 5 day shipping.
800-577-5319. 800-577-5319. 800-577-5319. That's 800-577-5319.
Well, welcome back. Our conversation with Adam Roosevelt continues, the senior executive, expert in government relations, former U.S. Army and advisor to the U.S. government and UAE royal family. Real quick, Adam, if it's okay with you, I'm sure it is, because I want to talk a bit about cybersecurity. And let's talk about your organization, AR International Consulting. as cybersecurity is something that we are increasingly aware of. Many of us have become victims of cyber insecurity. And so I want to give you a chance to tell our viewers, what your organization is all about.
Sure, I appreciate the time, Bill, for this. I will just expand quickly. Our organization started off advising Homeland Security, and we managed programs for cyber and protecting digital ecosystems of what's called the .gov network, and that's everything protecting government assets, critical infrastructure sector. I worked for the Assistant Secretary and advised on massive national security related programs. I then went commercial and started advising law firms on ransomware and policy and providing CISO advisory to a number of different clients in different industries, ranging from energy and other critical infrastructure sectors. We are the best at what we do, which is why Homeland brought us in, and we took our practice global. But we're always happy to talk about policy and the shifting landscape of cyber as emerging threats emerge.
Exactly. Give us a little bit more of the State of the Union of cyber and where we are. We hear often that America is very vulnerable to an EMP attack. Other attacks have been happening. Of course, we see what's happening just throughout our industry in America. Hospitals under attack, big businesses, with ransomware and other weapons that these malefactors have been utilizing against us.
Well, yeah, exactly right, Bill. And the interconnection of technology now touches everyone in some way, shape, or form. Your children have mobile devices. You have smart TVs. You now have pacers for our senior citizens who connect through Internet of Things and is sharing information remotely. Everything we touch and do has a technology integration somewhere. And the problem is there's a difficulty in communicating the need to protect that asset. And then the question is, how do you protect that asset, either in the commercial space, the personal space, or in the government space? And we are at risk. We've seen energy attacks take down massive infrastructure in terms of our corporations in Texas. We saw the interesting impacts on pipelines. And now when we wake up and our electricity is off, our oil and gas sector is not functioning, we see what happens to everyday life in America. And we have to bolster our cybersecurity in order to protect our economic and national security interest.
Adam, do you kind of wake up sometimes, just pinch yourself? I mean, your experience and how your career has been so fast-tracked has my head spinning here for just a moment. At 17, you enter the military, you work hard, you leverage your experiences. So when you come out, you're an asset to companies, to organizations, to our government, to governments overseas. I mean, you're still a young man. You're not supposed to be this experienced. You know that?
I do, Bill. But ambition and call to duty and service are drivers, and we have no choice at times but to do what is best for our community and our family, and often also our community. So I have no choice. If I don't do it, then we always ask, then who? And that's the military mantra for service.
Yeah, but still, you have to have the wiring and the IQ and capacity to be able to do this, Adam. And I'm sure, as fortunate as you must feel, about your experience and your career, you have a message to a lot of kids out there that could be the next Adam Roosevelts behind you.
Yeah, we've tried our best actually also to give back to education. I've actually been speaking on a multitude of issues, starting from resiliency and then going up into the career skill development, which helps these children and these young adults obtain jobs that are higher paying in the cyber industry, now blockchain. There's so many different pathways, and we're helping to give back where we can, not just in America, but also overseas as well.
Well, I look at it from a standpoint. I always talk when I'm talking to young people is that it's a canvas to work on. Every artist, I mean, we're all painting our own stories in a sense, metaphorically, right? And the military affords you an incredible breadth of canvases in which to write your story. And, and I think this is an important message for people to get out there, and also for the leadership to get their acts together to make sure that they create an environment that I say that you have a fair chance to win, that the giftings and talents that you've been blessed with can be complemented in an environment to where you can go out there and, as the Army would say, be the best you can be, right?
Yeah, and we always say Army strong.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot more we can still be doing with our veteran community, and also with the transition, which has been very difficult for veterans to be able to align their skills that they learned in the military and go into the commercial sector or the public sector again.
Right.
And that, I think, is also an ultimate challenge that needs to be solved, Bill.
Yeah, to me, that should be a no-brainer, Adam. I just have, I don't know, maybe because I transitioned, fairly easily. I was, in the public affairs department at Camp Pendleton, did radio and television. Basically, I was the Camp Pendleton version of Good Morning Vietnam. Okay. And although I wasn't as rambunctious as Robin Williams was, I would have been, I'd have been 86th and up for some serious discipline. Could not get away and didn't have a desire to do that. But, I was proud to serve the military. And for me, the transition, I guess I was just very fortunate, thank God, because I went from, public affairs, and I ended up getting back on track with my broadcasting career, which was what I was doing before. I went in the military and, accelerated through and ended up working, in Los Angeles, California at several radio stations, and enjoyed a wonderful career. And now here I am down the road, 50 plus years of experience. And the last 15 years, God gave me an assignment of doing, a television and radio show. So here we are.
Well, God bless you, Bill, because that, I think, is one of the most impressive gifts that we can be given, is the form of communication. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the number one thing that helps change the world. And if we're great speakers and communicators and we have the platform, there's a lot we can do to serve the community. So, thank you for your time and also the work you've done. I didn't say that yet, but appreciate the fact that you've dedicated your life to service as well.
Well, and for you, I guess where we're in harmony is that in communication, we're working hard to disseminate the truth, not to participate in this information age in which we live in today. Adam, as you know, there's so much misinformation out there. I mean, and it's been allowed to run rampant to such a degree that the traditional institutions that we thought we could trust in, we're finding that we can no longer trust them. And this is why now more than ever, I caution our audience to own your own knowledge, the things that we're talking about. Hopefully what we do is we've motivated them to say, I heard what Adam said. It kind of resonates with me, but I want to know for sure. By all means, do a deeper dive, check it out for yourself so that you own the knowledge and you're not just somebody that's there where you have mainstream media and others telling you what you should believe and how you should behave, right?
Completely correct. I have done a lot of work in terms of looking at the political leanings and the investors behind social media platforms, and that information is interesting. And you will see really who's behind what, who's a shareholder. You've got Russian shareholders in media organizations. People would not know that. And that's a scary thing, because when you put money to something, you have influence over the direction of that program or the long-term direction of that organization. And you can see that in Al Jazeera, you can see that in a multitude of different platforms, but it's a scary situation, the information behind the scenes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, do these outside sources and influences, do they have a commitment to the U.S. Constitution as we do?
I would say no. I would say their main objective is to sell.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, we'll go to break. When we come back, we've got more from Adam Roosevelt. Stay with us right here on the Bill Martinez Show.
Do you have heart failure and often hear, Those stomach issues ruined your birthday.
You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa.
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Deutsch, and if you or your business owe money to the IRS, I've got great news for you. Tax laws have changed. Billions of dollars are earmarked for IRS Fresh Start programs, and if you qualify, you can literally save tens of thousands of dollars. Listen, I know what you're going through. Call me if you want to speak with a tax attorney or tax professional for free.
800-247-1498. That's 800-247-1498. If you're 65 or older and Medicare is your main source of insurance, pay close attention right now and listen for details on how you may save thousands of dollars on your health care costs. Did you know that Medicare can pay for things like dental visits, home delivery of drugs, even a gym membership? Call us right now and learn how to unlock all your Medicare benefits. Medicare and supplemental plans that we provide can even offer you drug coverage with zero copays and pay for transportation to your doctors. Medicare plans can offer you wonderful money-saving benefits, but you've got to call now. We'll help you get the most out of your Medicare. Make this free, no-obligation call now. Save a ton of money on your health care costs and get the code to unlock all your earned Medicare benefits. Paid for by Senior Choice Plans. 800-796-3954. 800-796-3954. That's 800-796-3954. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
Well, welcome back. Bill Martinez here. We're talking with the government relations expert, former U.S. Army and advisor to the U.S. government and UAE royal family, Adam Roosevelt. I'm particularly interested in your association with the UAE royal family. Tell us some stories. What was that like?
Well, I can tell you, Bill, that I spent 2 years in a private office, and the private office structure is essentially a business arm for a member of the ruling family. There's 7 emirates in the UAE. You got Dubai, Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah, and a few more, and they all have royal ties based on the level of power. You know, you got the ruler of Dubai, for example, and he has his sons and daughters, and they all have business interests globally. And I was able to integrate into that affair and advise the board on different business strategies and international business development around the world.
How did that come about?
Speaking, actually, Bill, I think you'd appreciate this. I came to UAE. I actually went into a conference that was hosted by the office. I did a speech on artificial intelligence weaponization, and I was pulled aside to have a conversation based on what I spoke about, and they asked me to get involved with their business affairs. And that's how it happened. It's interesting communication and the power of speech.
Yeah, exactly. And here you talk about AI, and here in America, you know, we're starting to hear more and more, this year about artificial intelligence, and not surprisingly, but I would say a majority of Americans are still confounded, and they don't understand, especially when we hear, the technocrats saying AI could be dangerous.
It's very dangerous. In fact, I've done many case studies. One in particular was the Google case study about Project Maven. And that was an artificial intelligence system that could be integrated on a drone, but not have to get permission to carry out a strike. So that AI could determine whether or not you are a threat on the battlefield without having to get the approval from an operator 1,000 miles away. That could obviously have humanitarian crisis issues if it made one error or one mistake. That's just one example, and there are thousands others as we talk about AI and how it can either self-weaponize or, unfortunately, create its own languages and do things that we did not intend for it to do.
Yeah, this is kind of ironic because you think of the Pentagon, Adam, that here they are, you micromanagers, as you say, and the way they conduct things, they have to, everybody has to check in. Field officers got to check in with the Pentagon and make sure that they get proper clearance. Otherwise, they're left out to, hang out to dry. This has got to be brain bruising for them to have a machine out there that's not accountable to them, that they don't control the levers of this machine. I imagine that this is just, beyond their capacity.
Well, I think they thought that they could design something that had the capability to no longer need human interface. And this is where we have to make sure we design correctly, where we still have the human interface to make decisions, exactly. Or else we will run the risk of AI making decisions that were not intended for the human. And I mean that in the case of taking lives. I mean that in the case of carrying out attacks on the wrong location. That could be a problem. And that's just the military. There are 1,000 other conversations to be had.
Well, and you probably know this story, Adam. This was quite unnerving for me to think about how close to a nuclear release we came to. Here recently, this story was unveiled that there was a Russian officer, controlling, the nuclear weaponry and saw a spike. All the alarms went off, and it indicated that Russia was under attack from the United States of America. Now, fortunately, human intelligence, a humanoid, was there to kind of break it down and reason through it, which had to be incredible because it was like 99 against 1. He was the only one saying, no, I'm not. No, this doesn't quite connect. And boy, there was all kinds of pressure. I think that he got in trouble by not releasing a nuclear bomb. And what came to be was that it was some sort of environmental flare, some sun flare or something that triggered the machinery that told them that they were under attack when it wasn't. It was an anomaly, but for his, I guess, steadfastness, I say by the grace of God, he did not pull the trigger, or we'd already be in World War III.
Well, the nuclear early warning systems and all these different things in terms of sensors, I would hope that they've enhanced their policies to make sure that they have the right reaction. And let's also don't forget the infrastructure is so old, Bill. And I'm sure you know that we've got 20-year infrastructure, sometimes 30-year infrastructure that has not been modernized. And you'll run into technical issues over time. And this is a problem that needs to be addressed in terms of our modernization. And they also need to do the same thing.
Well, this is why we've got to stay away from any kind of conflict. This is what concerns me so much about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. The longer this continues, as you know, Adam, the potential for an oops, it just keeps on growing day by day as this continues. We cannot go into conflict so casually, especially with a nuclear war power that has the capacity of destroying a lot of people and a lot of land in an instant.
I completely concur. And I have to say, where is the policy boundary? Because this is not a NATO member. We like to protect our allies, but we have policy too. And I think we have done more than our fair share, and now we're continuing to incite. And I think that is going to cause harm to the American people. What about the American people? Our taxes that are going toward this war. And it's continuously, weekly, Bill, we see $1 billion here and there, and yet the American economy could be rescued. The veteran businesses could be rescued. The schools could be modernized. We have so many things we can put this money to, and yet we have put billions upon billions of dollars into this war. And next week we're doing things with cluster bombs today.
Exactly.
What's next, Bill? I'm just really concerned. When does it stop? When do we look at the policy and protect American interests first?
Well, President Eisenhower warned us of the military-industrial complex, and it is alive and well and flourishing. And the other concerning thing, Adam, is I'm sure with you, is you have the President of the United States essentially releasing top secret information to the world by telling them that we're low on ammo. To me, call me wrong, but I see that as a breach in national security. Am I off on that?
I mean, you're in the ballpark, and I would hope that this is the CIA advising the president to do misinformation campaigns for the purposes of misguiding our adversary. I'm hoping that's the narrative. But again, I probably doubt that it is, unfortunately. But I would say we should be confident in our capabilities to not share information when we don't need to share information. This was the CIA strategy. You only say enough to win the strategy. We know information warfare. We should definitely keep our mouths a little more quieter in our classified conversations globally.
I kind of liked what Donald Trump had to say, and that is that how he treated the adversaries was he left them with about 10% doubt. And I thought that was pretty wise. It was that, it was like, would he really do it? Would he? No, he's not going to do it. Well, maybe he might. Well, but the fact that he just dropped the seed of 10% of the possibility of him doing something like the way he treated ISIS, right?
Yeah, I love Trump, by the way. And yes, I like his hard line. Me and him agreed on many things: homeland security, border security, southern border strategy, the way we handled different nations and adversaries. I think it was fantastic, the type of bold moves and aggressive, New Yorker style engagement. And it worked. And in fact, he's loved in the Middle East, and he's loved in multiple parts of the world for his style and leadership.
Exactly. Well, I want to talk China here as we wrap things up. We've got about 2.5 minutes left here, Adam. You talk about an emerging threat. They've been allowed to expand their influence and their forces in the South China Sea, claiming that it is their territory. I mean, this is going to come to a head. This is almost like what happened with Ukraine and Russia. You see all the Russian forces mounting up. You can't go to war overnight. I mean, they over a 12-month period amassed forces that said they were going to war. They were not coming out and just doing a military exercise or going out on a wiener roast. I mean, they were going to war. And you see these emerging threats happening in the South China Sea and what China is doing. This is a clear and present danger, is it not?
It's our number one national security threat, as has been stated in our National Defense Authorization Act. And we know that China, regardless of what's happening in Russia, China is our number one national security threat. They have the intent to reshape international order, and they have the resources to do that. And we must do everything we can to deter their progression forward with accomplishing this. And lastly, I'll say that they're actually on track by 2030 to outpace the U.S. economy, and we cannot allow that to happen.
Well, when your enemy says what they're going to do, shouldn't you believe them?
I think, yes. In general speaking, yes, but there could be also psychological warfare campaigns, information warfare campaigns, and we try to keep all of those in mind as people make these statements. We have to look at what's being said and what's not being said.
Right. But you also connect the dots to say, okay, is there veracity? Can they follow through by what they're saying? I understand a lot of misinformation out there going, I get the strategy of nations. I appreciate that. But also we need to be wise enough to look at, just like I use, for example, what happened with Russia and Ukraine. You got to look at the mounting evidence, don't you?
You're spot on. I completely concur. And they have done a lot. Look at their Belt and Road Initiative. Look at their intelligence capacity. They've done a lot, and they are a number one threat to the United States today.
Well, Adam Roosevelt, I cannot thank you enough for, coming on the show and breaking it down for our viewers. Where can they go for more information?
They can find me on any social media platform. You just type Adam Roosevelt or our organization, AR International Consulting. We look forward to working with you all and solving complex issues. Really appreciate it, Bill.
Well, God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us. Adam Roosevelt, government relation expert, former military, United States Army. We thank you, Adam, so much for being with us. And you, our audience, thank you for sharing a part of your day with us. Have a great day and join us in this mighty Martinez movement to return to God and to save our nation. Go to BillMartinezShow.com. May God bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you. Go and be blessed beyond your imagination. Thanks again.